Good morning, welcome back to Marty's Tying Bench. Today I'm putting together kits for our Trout Unlimited Pub and Dub social fly tying, Rocky Mountain Flycasters Trout Unlimited chapter in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is my version, this is my little brown trout streamer. The style of tying, the actual design of this is pretty much Arcanian's Little Kim streamer, but I've stacked some different colors on here to make for the little brown trout. Now, I've got a size 6 hook. It's a 3x long streamer hook. Anything your cone will fit on will work. Pick the size that you like. I think these are known as medium size cones with Wapsi. To start off with a little bit of weight, I've got 030 lead wire. And I'm just going to pinch that to the shank and make 7 wraps. Stack those together and smooth them out. The purpose of this lead, if you use more if you want more weight on this, but I just want it to hold the cone in place. Now when I stick it forward like that, it always makes the cone droop down on that dropped eye, so I'm going to push those against each other until that lead's kind of swaged in there. And now it's going to be nice and even. And to help it stay there, I'm going to put a drop of super glue on the shank. And push that forward until it gets to the eye. Just make sure you don't push a big drop of super glue into the eye of the hook. This one's still clear. A light colored thread is better. I'm going to use tan. It goes with the colors of marabou I've chosen. And the tail is going to be marabou. Now pick a tan, a light brown, any color that strikes your fancy. Now I'm going to pull those forward and peel those back until I've got about the size bundle that I want. Now you want this thing to be definitely longer than the hook shank. 1.5, almost 2 times the length of the hook shank. So now that I've got it measured, I kind of know where I'm going to tie it in. I'm going to cut it first and butt it right up against the lead. Bring the thread back until you're right over the barb of the hook. Make a couple of firm turns and then a couple of security turns forward. Now if you want to check the length of this thing, just fold it forward and see if it extends past the eye of the hook. Once you've done that, then measure it against something back here. I'm always going to tie them right about this spot on my vise. And I'll have fairly consistent streamers if that's important to you. Now, I want a little bit of flash on each side, but I don't want this thing to be terribly sparkly. The browns are pretty well camouflaged, so just a modest amount. This is just 3 strands of crystal flash in brown olive. I'm going to measure that against the tail and tie that in, and then fold those 2 that I measured back. And I'm putting those right on top of that marabou. Cut this thing about the same length as the marabou. The reason I did that is I'm going to have another layer of marabou on top of it, so my flash is going to emanate from the middle of the fly, from the core. Now, I've got some Palmer Chenille in yellow, and I'm going to tie that in all the way at the back with just a couple of turns, and then go for my tinsel. This tinsel is your typical Mylar tinsel that's gold on one side, silver on the other. A holographic UTC tinsel would be good as well. And I tie this in gold side against the shank of the hook, so when I fold and wrap forward, the gold is going to be on the outside. Now I'm going to move this forward about to where my lead started. If you're consistent with your turns of lead, you'll be consistent with the front end of this fly. Alright, now I'm going to wrap that tinsel forward. And this is kind of an underbody. We're going to wrap that Palmer Chenille over the top, but we're going to space it out and kind of rib. Manipulate it so that the first wrap you make, all of those fibers are either standing straight up or sweeping back, and make almost a whole turn until you got that all the way around the hook. Then start your ribbing forward. You see how the gold tinsel showing through? Now I'm pulling, this has got a firm core on it, so I'm pulling pretty hard to make sure this isn't invited to slide around on the hook later in the life of this fly. There we go. Now we got a little yellow underbody. Now here's that same marabou feather. We cut out the tip of it to use for the tail here. And I'm going to use the stuff off the sides for kind of an overwing. I just peeled that off of one side, and I'm going to measure it until it goes back. I don't want it to be the same length. I want it to be a little bit forward, and this is going to give us a more of a bait fish profile. Again, I trim it first. And that's not as much as I want, so I'm going to now go up and get the stuff off the other side. I find that doing that with two little bundles is just as easy, or a little less trouble, than trying to get all that stuff stacked together and doing it in one bundle. Alright, now we want a little color variation on this, so we're going to put a brown on the back. Now when I say brown, you can use a burnt orange, you can use a dark brown, a light brown, root beer. There's a lot of different colors you can use. Now if you get a feather that's fluffy like this one, you can peel your marabou off the side. If you get a feather that's got longer, straighter tips, we'll just use that one intact. And I'm going to match this one so that it's the same length as these second and third bundles I tied in. Now, if you see where my thread is, I'm making my collar up here. I'm not getting very close to the cone itself. I kind of want some space in there for my hackle to sink into. So I'm just avoiding making any more wraps than I need to and keeping that open. Alright, now I got some flashabou. Pick the color you want. You can use a gold. This one is a opal yellow or opal gold. And it's going to tuck those in to the cone. And tie them on my side so that they extend right down the shank. Now I'm going to get 3 or 4 more strands, and we'll do it on the far side as well. Now again, this is a subtle amount of flash, so I only need a few strands of it. Now wrap these pretty tight so that these flashabou doesn't pull out, and cut them so that they're a little longer than your marabou. And now we're ready. I'm going to put a little bit of dubbing there, and what that'll do is help the hackle stand out to make a little more bulbous head on this fly, and it will keep the hackle forward. Any kind of red will do, rabbit, ice dub. I've got laser yarn here. I don't need very much of it. I'm just going to cover over that collar I made, and hopefully a little bit of that will show through and get mistaken for exposed gills. Now, for a hackle, I'm going to use a big soft hackle, and this is a Whiting Coq de Leon, speckled, beautiful feathers. You can use schlappen. We've got some tan and black schlappen that will work, but this time let's use this speckled stuff. I'm going to peel the waste type stuff away from the stem, but I'm going to leave a little bit of the fluffy stuff because I'm going to tie it in by the tip. And make sure you come far enough back from the tip that you're now tying in on a part of the stem that's tough enough. And my thread wraps are going to go not just around the stem, but around those little hackle barbs. Make a couple of turns before you tighten up. And sometimes I trim that, sometimes I don't. Today I'm going to. Now, just come around this with the soft hackle. If they start getting in the way, sweep them back, fold them back. This one behaved very nicely, so I didn't have to do any of that. And when you get to the part of the stem where you've run out of hackle, tie it off. And I haven't made a whole lot of turns here, and by putting that dubbing behind the hackle, that hackle should fit up pretty neatly against the cone, so you won't have an ugly hackle or thread collar here. I'll go ahead and whip finish, and I like to use multiple whip finishes. And there we go. Baby brown trout. Yellow belly, mostly tan, a little dark on the back. Have fun.